Hit the button, guys. It's gonna happen.
Okay.
Selectmen do, right? So do they want to call their meeting to order?
Sure will. Whenever you guys are ready. Eric, is it recording?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Great. I call the Board of Selectmen meeting October 26th, 7:30 virtual meeting. All selectmen are in attendance, short of Mr. Dennington.
Advisory is waiting for Tom Wilson and Adam. Adam
And Tim.
and Tim. I know Tom Wilson's going to be late. I know he's 9 to 8. If Adam comes, he's only going to be here for 30 minutes, and Tim's supposed to be here, and that's all I know at this point. So Lisa, what we could do is we can't, obviously advisory can't vote on anything, but we could participate in your meeting so we don't waste everybody's time until we get a quorum.
Sure, no problem, Kathy. So where the Board of Selectmen had last left off on the positions that we took, we had voted on Article 4 to fund the $115,000 from the free cash. So since, I'm just looking over my notes here, bear with me 2 seconds. And on Article 5, the board, I don't believe, took a position on how we would appropriate that. So my recommendation to the board would be to also fund that through free cash. It wouldn't hit the tax rate, which is one of the things we're trying to avoid at this point in time. So it would be, so $40,000 had been within the 3.19 number that we went to annual town meeting with. And the motion was never made, even though it was included in the budget figures. It wasn't included in what was appropriated. So when we go to town meeting, that's why we're appropriating the 85,000. My suggestion for tonight is obviously to leave the 85 and the 30 that we had already voted, the 115, and add the 25. So from free cash, it would be 140. I know I had spoken to Kathy earlier, and we had initially discussed not including the 40, but if we don't include the 40 in the free cash, we're going to have to do an appropriation for it. So
But you can, you can. The motion can do that.
you can. It would just be almost easier if we did it. And again, certainly, Kathy, this is different than we discussed earlier. But as I was thinking about it, if we did it through free cash, then what we would do is we'd actually be lowering the rate that we went to annual town meeting to 3.10. So it's ultimately some level of a wash, and it's just a cleaner process to do it all through one. So again.
So I agree with everything you said. That's exactly. So it would be cleaner if
Yep.
you also used $40,000 of free cash. And the free cash of $1.8 million, of course, is a strong free cash. Advisory has already taken a little bit of look at fiscal year 23, and there are some huge headwinds in fiscal year 23. Big time ones. COLA, 6%. 1/1/22 values probably split even further. So we need to be careful with free cash so we don't start in a hole, but we won't start in a hole with what we're talking about moving to free cash. We'll still have more in free cash for fiscal year 22 than fiscal year 23 than what we're going to end up with in fiscal year 22, even after we move this. So it works either way, Lisa. And I agree.
Yeah.
It's cleaner than split and saying the 40 is going to be paid by an appropriation and the rest of it's going to be paid by free cash. So again, advisor is going to have to vote when we get a quorum, but that's at least my thought.
Okay. So go ahead, Kathy. Sorry.
I just want to say, so AP, you want to weigh in on what Lisa's proposing to do to keep it clean?
I think with the options we have, that might be the best. I think the only thing is, I still think there's some budget in the IT budget. But if we want to do this, I think both selectmen and advisory need to send a clear message to all department heads that this is a year which the budget is very tight. Had we known some of this information ahead of time, we probably would have pushed back even harder on the budgets that were approved. So if there is budget at the end of the year, everybody should be doing their due diligence, not to just spend the budget for the sake of spending it, and they should try to return back to the town as much as possible.
Andrew, I don't disagree with that. I think that's a message that we certainly can. I think, again, I speak as one member of the Board of Selectmen, but I think that's a pretty strong message that we can all send. Chelsea, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I would ask advisory to be ready to go through every line item in the budget this year. I mean, I think I can count on one hand budgets that were cut last year. So I really think that we need to make sure that what we're bringing to town meeting, we're not sitting here a year from now saying, if I had known X, Y, or Z, I wouldn't have approved that budget. We either agree with the budget or we don't. So I hear you on the department heads. I think that's part of the reason why we put in some financial policies last year to make sure that we're reviewing on a quarterly basis and making sure that we don't have any surprises. So I think that they did do a good job of that last year, and I would expect the same this year. We have the same kind of rigor in place, but I think we need to tighten up the review process.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Can one of
Sorry.
you guys reiterate to the town finance team that advisory is feeling a little bit neglected these days as far as info that we get? So if they could just copy us on everything that is going to you guys that's financially involved, it would be appreciated. So we don't have to keep asking separately for all the stuff.
Fair enough. That's easy. Kathy, you can take care
Okay,
of
so
that.
Lisa, I'm getting a different number than you as far as free cash. Okay, so we've got the 30 from the consultant studies, right? We've got
Yes.
the 25 from the traffic study. We've
Yep.
got 85 for IT.
Yep.
Right? So
Yep.
that's 140.
140, correct.
Okay, all right, so then we already agree with. Okay, so
Yeah.
so basically we're going to move 140 of free cash from fiscal year 23 back to fiscal year 22.
And Kathy, we don't have Brian right on. No,
You don't have what?
Brian on.
Nope. Well, yeah, he's not on Zoom.
Okay. Because my
Chelsea, go
one,
ahead.
I was
Sorry,
still
Andy.
questioning that the short-term debt and tax title that got increased. I don't know if we need to raise funds for that.
Yeah, so what we were talking about, and of course you think I know this by now, but I don't. When things change after town meeting that aren't part of budgets that get approved by town meeting, for example, the tax title line has gone up by $9,000 or so. What right do we have to raise taxes for that when it wasn't brought to town meeting? We obviously do, because we do every year. There's always some adjustments between town meeting and the time he actually sets the tax rate. And they're usually small. But what right do we have to raise taxes beyond what we said at town meeting we were going to raise taxes for? We thought Brian was going to be here tonight, so we were going to ask him. And if no one knows, we'll ask him. We obviously do, because we do it. But I don't understand how we do that.
So what are you looking at, Kathy?
So
that-
if you look, Chelsea, at the revised fiscal year 22 spread, I sent it to you a few minutes ago, by the way. It's on your email.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There is a column that Brian has added for the adjustments that have been made since May town meeting. And one of those is he's increased the line for other by $15,964, and he's calling it short-term debt and tax title raised. He's basically saying we're going to raise taxes to pay for that too. Now there's an offset. They're actually, for some reason, increasing local revenue too, which of course, remember, is just an estimated number. It's a low ball number. So you've got lots of flexibility with that number. So I assume they raised it maybe because of the fact they added the 15, but they didn't. It's not a dollar for dollar offset. So definitely Paul Sabelli is going to include that 15,964 and what needs to be raised when he sets the tax rate. And I just don't know how you do that when town meeting didn't say you can do that. Maybe it's just one of those things that's outside town meeting purview.
And Chelsea, it
Kathy,
was in the special town meeting budget status email from Brian on the
Okay.
15th at 1:30. And this
Okay.
SDM update, it's that's where the 9,000 increase, and then there's another something else in there.
And Chelsea, the one I sent you tonight is the one where I think we're going tonight, except for adding the 45 and being funded by free cash. So I got to adjust that real quick, but this is where I thought we were going to end up after talking to Lisa today.
All right.
So-
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Sorry, just a thought for town meeting. The residents aren't used to us funding through free cash.
Mhm.
Like that's because we don't usually have a special, and we wouldn't have this available at the annual. So does it make sense for maybe Brian to stand up before we move Article 4? That would be through free cash, to just give an explanation of what free cash is before we present. So just so that they're familiar with the term.
I think you're going to confuse things if he does that. I would instead say, do the motion really clean. Don't say raise and appropriate, say transfer from free cash. That's how it's funded. And then before you do it, just say, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to raise your taxes. We're doing this out of free cash, and let it go. The advisory report is going to go into this. Doesn't mean they're going to read it though. So I think, Chelsea, it's a great idea, but I think you're going to confuse more if you get up and try to explain something. And I think it's going to beg more questions.
Okay, Kathy, I'm going to go back to the original proposal and get Sam and Marty's feedback as
Okay.
well.
All right. So we'll
Thank
be
you.
quiet now.
You're fine. Thank you, Sam. Thoughts?
I'm okay. I'm okay with the proposal.
That's it?
That's it. I have
Sam.
more to say about the ARPA stuff and the
That's-
overall tax rate. That's what I care about tonight.
So that's not on our agenda for tonight, but I can tell you it is on the agenda for next Wednesday. Sorry, not Tuesday, on Wednesday. So.
And she told me that, Lisa told me that too today, Sam, and I agree. And so she's promised that you guys are going to have just a full-throated discussion of ARPA with the computation done as far as whether we qualify for using it completely because of lost revenue, which is what we think at this point.
And
So
hopefully with our ARPA consultant in the loop too. That'd be interesting.
So Andrew had done a calculation, but Jennifer has also supposed to have a calculation for us as well,
Okay.
Sam. So
Okay.
we'll have
Good.
the two. So then I don't want to say too much more on that because it's
Got it.
outside the
All right.
scope. So, but thank you. Marty?
Yeah, I'm fine with this. Paul Semino had a pre-special town meeting get together about the logistics of the warrant articles last night. And both Ms. Cook and I were there, and as was Ms. Jay Tallerman, town council. And there was a discussion about basically the lack of options here because of the nature of the way appropriations read and the like. So this isn't, I don't think it's a bad option. It might not have been the best option if the playing field were entirely clear, but it's not, given the legal restrictions. And so I'm comfortable with what's being proposed.
Okay, thank you, Marty. So Kathy, I mean, we could take a vote now, but I almost prefer to wait until you guys have a quorum as well.
So Eric and Marcy again, we can't vote yet until Tom gets here or Tim gets here. But does this make sense to you? I sent you guys a spreadsheet about an hour ago that shows everything we talked about. Well, it shows this, except it doesn't show the $40,000 coming from free cash. So I've got to fix that. So Eric, I know you had a question, but there's no ability to use more than the expenses we're adding at special town meeting as far as free cash. We can't use $500,000 worth of free cash based on a discussion with town council last night. If we'd had a warrant article to use it, we could have, but it's too late for that. So all we can do is basically fund what's in the warrant with free cash, which is what we're trying to do.
Kathy, a couple things just real quick. Forgive me. I'm not seeing that email from you I'm not seeing anything from today. I'm not sure if I got blocked or if you could re-forward it to me.
You know something, it did get blocked. I sent it out of my normal email and it got blocked. So sorry, you didn't get it.
It's okay. Yeah. if you don't-
Anytime I use advisory committee as the mailing list is not going to go through. So I'm sorry. I'll send it in just a second. So you're right, it didn't go through.
And then do we, I guess, so I understand that sort of our hands are there, right? This is what we have to work with currently.
To be clear, the Board of Selectmen on November 3rd are meeting and possibly using the ARPA funds is on their agenda. So we aren't necessarily done with determining the year-over-year tax increase with just what we're talking about tonight. And again, we can't say much more about it because it's not on the agenda.
Right, so I guess my understanding is that we essentially are gonna say, hey, everything that's on the warrant, it won't change your tax rate, but we also don't have an answer to how why, or how we're gonna address the significant increase in your tax rate now that we have the new calculations. Is that?
We're going to say more than that, Eric. In a report, we're going to explain why we were at 3.19 there and right now at 5.01. So we're going to explain it to anyone that's interested in listening. So we're not saying your taxes haven't changed since the May town meeting. Right now, they have changed. So we're going to explain that in our written report that we're required to do as far as that piece of it goes. But what we are going to say is nothing on the warrant tonight is changing your projected year-over-year tax increase.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that piece, this exact topic at hand, I feel like I don't have anything more to contribute here. The larger piece, yes, I have opinions there and questions.
So Kathy, did Marcy have any questions or comments on it?
Sorry, I'm going to add now, Lisa. Thank you. I agree with everything the Board of Selectmen have just said, and particularly Ms. Malinowski's comment on probably tightening down the review process. But I agree with the approach that we're taking here and realize that it's probably the best option.
All right.
So-
So
Sorry,
Lucy, you want to go
Kathy.
ahead and talk about Board of Health and Chelsea?
So we can certainly turn it over to Chelsea for that, based on our meeting today. Go ahead, Chelsea.
So we had a Board of Health meeting this morning. And we discussed at length the FY22 article. And as well as kind of where we're going with FY23, although we did not take a position on that yet. And there was a lot of concern from the board around how, if pulling the article and what that means and how that's viewed. And so there was a lot of discussion around the members in majority wanting these to be permanent positions and moving forward with bringing this to FY23. And I explained advisory's position with why you took the position you did last week to not support the article, that it's not to go against the contracts that we have in hand through June 30th, but it's rather because of the financial situation that we're in with potentially having a 0.25% increase on top of what we already have for FY22. So they did agree to pull the increase, but we are still publishing a report that went to the town clerk's office today. It's up on the website as of this afternoon, that explains that this does not change the direction that the Board of Health is going in, and that the majority of the board feels that these positions should be permanent and it should be part of the core staffing of the health department for the future. And Dr. Medina will be speaking. We'll have 2 to 3 minutes don't forget, this is part of water too, like the article. So we have to amend the article and not indefinitely postpone the article. So I'm working with the clerk on that. But Dr. Medina will be speaking to what the future requests could potentially be for FY23. But again, there was a lot of discussion around concerns, and that by doing this, it does create a uphill an uphill, I don't know, and battle's the right word, but for the Board of Health, by not bringing this forward and having the taxpayers weigh in. We brought it forward because we thought it was the right thing to do, given where we were with COVID and, the resources that are required of us right now. But we also recognize that advisory is the financial board in town. And so we essentially deferred to all of you for how to fund it. Board of Health does not necessarily care about how it's funded. They were more concerned about how this is going to impact any future decisions. So I just wanted to give you the background of it was not a short discussion. It was a lengthy discussion and there were a lot of concerns voiced. But that's essentially where we're at. And so my question, that's my Board of Health hat. As a selectman, one of my questions for the advisory committee is, how are you, what do you have already kind of earmarked for the reserve fund? This is probably going to add another, I don't know, 70, 75, somewhere in there, right? Okay, because we still have some time that's not covered by CARES FEMA. I did send a memo to you 2 weeks ago regarding that. And how are you going to handle other things that come up? And what's your plan for that?
So we only know of one thing so far in fiscal year 23, and I'm trying to pull up what the number is, which is the boat for the fire department. So that's it so far. And so what we do, Chelsea, is, as you may remember, we set up a spreadsheet, and anything that we think that we said, could come forth at the end of the year when we really vote on reserve fund transfers, we go ahead and earmark. So we actually basically take that piece of reserve fund off the table. So we started with 190,000 this year. We've got the boat, and that's it so far. What I asked Lisa to do today, and we'll ask again, is to reiterate to Mark and Brian, and we will do it too, to remind everybody in town, all departments, that we won't entertain a reserve fund transfer if we don't find out about it contemporaneously with when it happens. We don't want to hear about it June 30th when you knew about it in January. So that's how we keep up with them. And if you wait to June, it's likely we won't even vote on it if it was something you could have told us about in January. So we do want to do that. So we know of nothing else right now, but of course the year is young. What we're going to do this time too is, once we agree on what that number is, the worst case between what you know now and then what we know for January 1st, June 30th, we're just going to set it aside. We're going to do the spreadsheet and show it as encumbered, so we know what's left. So that's our plan, to make sure that we don't overspend advisory. Brian and Mark will know what that remaining amount is. They will be watching what's going on as far as when they see things come up that are unexpected, that would qualify. So we're just going to have to be careful.
So
Kathy, it's just 17,000.
So I sent a memo on 6,000.
Okay, so that's 23 right now, out of the 190.
And then the printer for Board of Health. That's why we increased the reserve fund by 10,000. So I believe that was between 3 and 4 for the printer.
Which is, I think that printer's already in IT's budget, so we'll just have to.
No, it's not. Oh, you mean it's spent?
Well, it's going through their budget. It's not
right,
but it is it's being put in their budget. So great. So okay, so there's another 3 to 4.
Okay. So okay. I just want to make sure that we're,
so 27 out of 190.
And Kathy, I think the motion we made last meeting was to do the full 95,000, even though it's going to be hopefully 2 months are covered by CARES. So yep. I think we have some buffer there.
Yeah. So Chelsea, great question. And therefore we just have to make sure we understand what we have contingent liabilities for in the accounting world, and watch what's going on to make sure that Mark and Brian also are watching to make sure that nothing comes up that looks like it would overdraw the reserve fund.
So Kathy, just so you know, after our conversation today, I did speak to Mr. Purple and I did share that sentiment that, as soon as we know of something, advisory would like to know as soon as possible. So that's already been done.
Okay,
He said he would share that with Brian. So
thank you.
So to the Board of Selectmen, I guess then, we know that there's an amendment coming on Article 3. Chelsea, you don't know specifically the wording on the article?
I
I'm
know
just
my
wondering.
amendment.
Okay,
I know
well,
my amendment.
I'm wondering if we can just if we should take a position on the amendment or if we should just wait till town meeting. I mean, I think we know in advance what the amendment's going to be. Kathy, what's advisory going to do with the amendment? Are you guys going to wait till town meeting or?
We have voted on what you're about to vote on. So we voted to not support the Board of Health piece of Article 3. So we're done, I think, as far as that goes. So I don't think we got to do anything further other than, at town meeting, when he turns to us and says, support, not
Right.
support, we say support the amended motion.
Okay, so Chelsea, why don't you give us the motion and then we'll go through and we can take, I know Andrew's not here, but I think it makes a lot of sense to do it in advance.
Okay. So the amendment will be, I move to remove all references to budget 542 and 910 from Article 3.
So do we have a motion from the Board of Selectmen to support the article as amended?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. Assuming that amendment hasn't been approved yet, right?
Correct. And we're just trying to advisory's kind of already taken this position, Marty. So it's
Yep.
just, well, we can certainly, it's easy enough to get Andrew's feedback at town meeting, but I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page.
No, I'm fine with it. It's just, it is, what Kathy Cook, correct me if I'm wrong, what you all did is you voted not to support the current article.
That's correct. Knowing that we did, so that's right, because, it's all or nothing, right?
Okay,
But we do support, obviously, reducing the water budget by 150. So
right, but
yeah,
the vote you all have taken so far is not to support the Article 3.
that's right. So what we will do between now and town meeting is, and maybe at town meeting, is to take another vote to support the amended, what we expect to be the amended Article 3.
Okay, so.
So I mean, we can wait, Marty. I'm just,
No,
again,
at least I'm not, I just want to, it just, I think the way the motion was phrased is that we support the amendment and the amendment doesn't exist yet. That's my only concern.
okay. So
I guess if Sam, what you meant to say is that
Yes.
we move to support the Article 3 as it will be amended.
That was exactly what I was thinking, Marty.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and I've seconded that and I support it.
Okay,
Excellent.
wonderful. All right, so we'll just do round table. Mr. Stivers,
Aye.
Mr. Healy,
Aye.
Ms. Malinowski,
I'm gonna abstain.
okay, and Ms. Brascio, aye. Okay, great. Thank you. And that's what I meant to say, Marty, really. That was what I meant.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. It's just, it's blame Kathy Cook. She's the one who screwed us up on this.
Okay, I take blame, like you screwed us up on the $40,000, right?
Hey, we're able to take it out of free cash as a result.
All right, okay, that's right. We reduced the tax rate by 0.02.
Sometimes mistakes are a good thing.
Yep, they are.
So
That's-
Kathy, when do you anticipate if someone's coming in, they're coming?
8 o'clock is what Tom Wilson said. Can
Okay.
you text him? AP, do you have his cell phone number? Tell him
Yeah,
he's desperately needed.
So I mean, we can go ahead. I mean, I think we're all going in the same direction on Article 4 and Article 5. So,
3 and 4 or 4 and 5?
sorry, 4 and 5.
3 and 4 or 4 and 5?
Nope, For,
5 to traffic study. Okay, all right. I just
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So for Article 4 for the 85 to 30 and Article 5 for the 25. So we had taken position at our last meeting to just do Article 4 through free cash, which would be the 85 and the 30 for the 115. So that standing, I guess we would just need to take a motion to also support Article 5 for the 25,000 coming out of free cash.
So
So
moved.
moved. Seconded.
Mr. Okay, great, thank you. All right, Mr. Stivers,
Aye.
Mr. Healy,
Aye.
Ms. Malinowski.
Aye.
And Ms. Brascio, aye. Okay, so we've done that, Kathy. I mean, we can certainly hang around. I think it looks like that's the direction you guys are going as well.
I agree.
So,
Can we just talk about one more thing that doesn't require a vote, but it's something that I thought was pretty unusual from last night's meeting. Article 2, where you are asking for the Board of Selectmen to be renamed Select Board. I still don't quite understand what's going to happen. We're going to vote twice on it. We're going to vote once to say, change the name with everything except for the zoning code, and then we're going to vote second just to make sure you get a 2/3 vote on the second one, or is he going to do one vote and hope he gets 2/3, and if he doesn't get 2/3, then split it?
Chelsea's saying yes, I
Right.
wasn't there. So go ahead,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
So it was, we're gonna take it all together. And if we don't think we get 2/3, then I think the suggestion is that we could split it.
And so let's just say for a moment that the 50% passes, but the 2/3 doesn't. Does that mean that it changes every place except for in the zoning bylaws, and it just still says Board of Selectmen in those? Is that what the outcome is?
Yeah.
Marty, I was watching you seem to think it was kind of weird too, as far as what Jay was saying last night. As far as
Yeah,
that.
I think it's bizarre.
Yeah.
I think someone should vote to indefinitely postpone the article, but just kidding.
And change the
Um,
name.
Yeah, as a practical matter, I think, again, who knows? Maybe there's a bunch of people out there who agree with me on this, but I don't think so. And I think it's going to just be an administrative footnote on things.
I think so too, Marty.
So I know Mr. Semino is listening. Andrew Pfaff proposed today to have all articles be on the consent agenda except for 10. Instead of just 7, 8, and 9. I said, well, I'm pretty sure that people would think at least the advisory article might be not trying to get a full discussion on it. So I don't think that would be appropriate, but it's a thought.
The other one, where we have Paul here is how about no longer reading the articles and just saying as printed in the warrant? That's Paul. Let me bring him over.
He's got his hand raised. Sorry about that.
It just went up.
So Lisa, are we good?
Well,
We
Paul
being the
Sim-
Board of Selectmen?
2 minutes. I think after Paul's done, we were waiting, Marty, just to see if Mr. Wilson was coming. And if not, then we'll go ahead and adjourn. 2
Okay.
seconds.
Got it. Sorry about that.
Andrew, you just threw me off there when you mentioned about how to do motions. What was the first reason I was coming over?
1 through 9 on your consent agenda.
No, I'm not. I don't have that in mind. Frankly, I thought about and dismissed the consent agenda idea last night because we only have 10 articles. By the time we go through the consent agenda process, we could be through 5 of them. So I'm not inclined to do that. We'll see. People get to make motions the way they want to make motions. I mean, the motion is what we consider and deliberate upon at town meeting. If people want to shortcut that and say as printed in the warrant, they can do that. You tend to force people then to read. What I would prefer is people say that instead of reading the warrant word for word, right? A motion does not have to be a verbatim regurgitation of what's printed in the warrant. It could be anything within the four corners of what's in the warrant. But if somebody wants to just read the warrant article, then yeah, I think they should say as printed in the warrant. But I can't, but there's no forcing people to do that because their motion may be different.
Yeah, I think that would just solve the Marty issue, right? Either as printed in the warrant and then reading it as you see fit, because then if you skip something, I don't know. I was very confused. with
That's
what
rich.
happened.
This is going to be called the Marty issue from now on.
Yeah.
I'm in
Just gonna
favor of
say
that.
Kathy.
Just as long as you spell my name right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Marty rule. And then, because Paul, what else was interesting is later on in that motion, you said, and just to reiterate, what we're voting on is the printed warrant minus these two items. So I was confused on why that didn't supersede, but anyway, we're adding the 40,000 back at this point, but it was just very confusing.
No doubt.
All right.
All
What
right,
was the other
Ken,
reason I came over?
I
thought
think
there
that was it.
was
I
that
didn't
it?
know you had a beard last night. You had your mask on. I was going, where did that beard come from? Then I realized you had your mask on last night.
I grew it since yesterday.
Tim Martell's here. So advisory can keep, if you guys want to leave, fine. I think we're there. So
I
we
think
can
so.
take our official votes.
Okay, so that being said, Board of Selectmen, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
Sam?
moved.
Okay,
Second.
Sam. second.
Hold on, guys. Hey, I just remembered the other reason I wanted to come over. The change in Article 2. If Article 2 passes, the idea that it has to pass by a 2/3 vote because the words Board of Selectmen are going to be administratively edited in the zoning bylaw. I'll just be frank and say I don't agree with that. I think I may be agreeing with Marty on this, that suggesting it requires a 2/3 vote because typographically it impacts the zoning bylaw. I think is, I don't know, Marty, what's higher than belt and suspenders? What's the third thing?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Paul, I really just think this is, I guess this is a tempest in a teapot. I can't, God, if on Article 2, we end up having a debate about select board versus the more
My point
rational
is-
route, which I've proposed,
My
then
point is the article is a majority vote. I'm not going to be looking for 2/3 on that.
okay.
If I take a majority vote and move on, and then town council says, well, therefore we can't administratively edit the zoning bylaw, I'd love to have that discussion with him.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I think as a practical matter, if we just changed, it is such an administrative thing.
Right.
If we just changed it ourselves, we had Jim Haggerty go in and replace select men with select board, I don't think that there's a legal issue with that.
Right, agreed.
Okay, so before you finish your adjournment, Lisa, Mr. Martell is here. And as we've discussed, Tim is voting against Article 10. Does anyone want to hear from Tim as far as his reasoning for that vote?
Hey, Kathy, before that, I thought Julie Connolly actually had a conversation with her, maybe it was last week.
With Tim?
And I mean, she knows this article inside out. And what she pointed out is that the 10 is actually a reduction from what currently exists. In other words, what currently exists is there's no cap. For multifamily housing in the existing article, there's no cap. It can be done by special permit by the planning board. So this actually is a reduction. So defeating this article because you think it's too high is keeping in place an article that is unlimited.
So Tim, would you like to respond?
I mean, that may be true, but in many places in this bylaw where we're not talking about mixed use, a lot of the verbiage has been copied word for word from existing bylaw language. I think we can all agree on that. And it's odd to me that this is one case where it wasn't. The existing bylaw says that this has to be multifamily usage has to be part of I think it's a major site review.
Major residential, yep.
So why not just do that? Tell everybody, hey, this is what's been in place for I don't know how many decades. It hasn't been a problem. Let's move on because we really want to focus on mixed use. To me, that seems to be the most straightforward path. It puts all the questions to bed, and it doesn't. I'm not even going to say it opens up loopholes. It closes the public's perception of a loophole. So that's the only way I would respond to that.
Tom Wilson should be brought over too at this point. He's in the audience.
All right, Kathy, that being said, I'm going to finish our adjournment. Mr.
Kathy,
Stivers.
first, can we call ours to order?
Yes, I need to call it. So can I do that real quickly? So before I
Yeah,
get
go
into
ahead.
trouble? Okay, so I'm calling the advisory committee to order at 8:12. We now have 6 out of 7 members. The only absentee is Adam.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Stivers,
Aye.
Ms. Malinowski.
Aye.
Mr. Healy
Aye.
and Ms. Braccio. Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
See you Monday.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
So advisory, stay on. Okay. All right, and anybody from BOS, you're welcome to stay on too. Okay, so guys, let's get Tom and Tim up to date real quick. What we spent the time before you guys joined talking about is Articles 3 and 4, which are the 2 articles that have money, well, 2 of the 3 that have money in them. So let's start with 3, which is the article that reduces the water budget by $150,000. Doesn't affect taxes. It's all funded by water, so it's going to help your water bill, not your tax bill. And then the Board of Health had asked to increase their budget by $95,000 or so. So the Board of Selectmen have agreed with our position on the Board of Health, which is to basically withdraw that piece of it. So there'll be a motion made on the town meeting floor to amend Article 3 to only end up voting on the reduction in the cost of water line item. So basically, they have agreed with our position on that, which was our position at the regular town meeting too. So we're back to that.
And Kathy, sorry to interrupt, but also the Board of Health voted to do that.
Right. So Board of Health this morning met and also voted to basically support removing amending that article to remove their requested increase in their budget. So what does that do? That means that the reserve fund is going to be the backstop for any overage in the Board of Health budget for fiscal year 22. If there is no other funds that come available from the various laws that have been passed, maybe passed to fund COVID type expenses. So we'll have to be careful with reserve fund. We'll have to add that to the spreadsheet as a contingent use of it so that we don't overspend reserve fund with other things that may come before us before the end of the year. Any questions on that one? Okay, so now what we will need to do when we get to town meeting, so if everybody could get there, I mean, I know this is hard for you guys, they have to go home and eat and see kids, but if everybody could get there by 6:30, we will be able to re-vote Article 3 once we see what it's going to truly look like as far as the word. I mean, we can do it tonight. We think we know what it's going to say, but we can also wait till Monday and just vote specifically on what it looks like. Well, they'll have it written at that point, so we can actually see it in front of us as far as what the article says, so we know what we're voting on. Because we voted not to support it, we should be able to vote now to support it, and we need to take an official vote either tonight or Monday night.
So Kathy, on that, I think we should wait until it's actually amended.
Okay, all right.
Right,
But we
'cause
but
to
we
Marty's
still should
point,
talk
it's-
about it. Okay, but everybody be, we've talked, so as long as everybody's ready, because what we do at town meeting, when something gets amended, we have to hold it real quick and say, okay, what's our position? Paul Semino will turn to us and say, support, not support the amendment. We've got to say support, not support. So we'll have to move fast, but we've already talked about it. So we should know the answer to this one. This one should be easy to hold it real quick once the amendment has actually been made on the floor. Okay, everybody okay with that process? All right, so Tim Martell's nodding yes, Tom Wilson's giving me a thumbs up, Eric's thumbs up, Marcy. Okay, so 4 thumbs ups. Okay, now let's talk about the article that's got the capital stuff in it. So remember, it's got the $30,000 for future consulting projects that might relate to closing a school, putting town departments in the closed school, et cetera. So we supported that one. It also has the cost of 3 new servers, which we decided last week that we agree we need. The question was how to pay for them. So since then, I've talked to Lisa Braccio. I have talked to Jay Montijo, and I think I sent everybody that email today, I hope, as far as his reply goes. So I personally have changed my mind about that one. I think we should support this one. It's going to be paid for with free cash. It's not going to increase the taxes, just because I think there's enough uncertainty in the IT budget right now, and it's Jay's first year. He also had nothing to do with putting this budget together. He came in too late. So he inherited a budget that was not his. And based on what he said in that email, I think there's enough of uncertainty that he would prefer us not to use what we think is going to be excess money in that budget to pay for at least the $45,000 extra cost for the servers, the 45 above the 40 that we approved at town meeting. So that's what we discussed previously too. Again, we couldn't vote. We didn't have a quorum. So we just, the people on the Zoom did discuss it, but we did not vote. So now we've got a quorum. So we actually could at least vote to support that article in its entirety, and also vote to agree that we want it funded with free cash. We're going to end up using $140,000 of the free cash that just got certified, which means our starting point for fiscal year 23 will still be higher than the adjusted fiscal 22 free cash, which is a good thing. Okay.
Kathy, I'm just gonna throw it out there again. I don't have any emails from you this week, so I'm already verbally said I'm supportive and we'll vote yes on this, but in terms of having that communication from Jay, I haven't seen it personally.
I think I sent it. I may have sent it to Lisa, not to you guys. So that one should have got, no, it won't either. See, my problem is, Eric, this is not an excuse, but if I'm going to send it to the advisory committee list and not to you individually, I've got to go into the Southborough email to do it. It won't go through if I do it, but it doesn't tell me it doesn't go through. I have to remember not to do that. If I wanted to put your names in it, it'd go through fine. And so I did. I definitely used advisory committee on the spreadsheet. I know I did that. And I probably did it on that email too. So I will send them both to you when we get off this meeting and do it the right way. So you'll see them.
I just sent it around. Yeah,
Okay.
you should have it.
Okay. Can you just read it, Andrew, to everybody? It's short.
Oh, sure. I can just put it up on the screen too.
Okay.
So here, basically. All right, everybody. Okay.
So long story short, he does not want us to fund the extra 45K out of his operating budget. He thinks it's too risky this early in the year. And let me just say this, unlike the Board of Health, this really is a swap of free cash. So there really, between the two years, there's no impact of doing this. So that's another reason to not get too excited about this piece of it. It's either going to increase free cash one year or the other if it doesn't get spent. if he really does have money left in his budget. So there's really going to be no impact between the 2 years of this decision, one way or the other. To me, the biggest decision was, did we support the 3 servers? And I think we unanimously did, based on what we heard from MTC and what we heard from Jay last week. Tim Martell didn't say no, which is why I was looking toward him as far as the service goes. So I still think John Butler's going to stand up and say, wait a minute, guys, I thought you guys were going to the cloud. And Jay's is going to say, we're just not there yet.
Yes, I mean, it really comes down to the functions that are on those servers. And, you know, it's really difficult to put those in the cloud. And then if you want not a backup, but you want 100% availability, and that's something you do want because these are public safety applications. Then you know, a 3-server arrangement is fairly standard. It's not really
it
about
sounds like the
backup.
new ones are going to be better. They're going to have redundancy that these don't have. So they're going to be a better server too, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. So assuming no one's changed their mind about the 3 servers, let's take an official vote on supporting Article 4 as written in the warrant. You agree, AP?
Can we add the language with funded by free cash?
Yes. So let's in our motion basically say, as long as it's funded by free cash from fiscal year 21.
Okay.
Okay.
I move that the advisory committee supports Article 4 as written in the November 1st warrant, as if it is funded by fiscal year 21 free cash.
Second. Everybody's muted. Eric, are you going to second?
Second.
Okay, Eric seconded, Claire. Okay, any further discussion of supporting Article 4? All right, roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tim? I think that was an aye.
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
Tom? Tom?
Aye.
Okay, Claire, 6-0 to support Article 4 with the caveat that we added as far as how to fund it. Okay. All right, so just to kind of rehash where we are with all 10 articles, we have voted to basically support all 10, including the amended 3, unanimously, except for Article 5, which was a 6-1 vote. Marcy is still trying to get Mark Purple to answer her questions. So I'll send him an email tonight, Marcy, and ask him to please respond to you. I'm not sure what's going on.
I
And
have
I
an
thought
update now, Kathy.
you do have an update?
Since I messaged you, he replied, we're kind of playing phone tag now, or at least email tag, and I will send him the list of questions with Karen Galligan tomorrow.
Okay. All right, so we can rediscuss this before town meeting, so Marcy should hopefully have her answers by then. And then the other one is Article 10, which is also a 6-1 vote with Tim being the dissenter and plans to discuss his dissent at town meeting. Now, Paul Semino is going to just turn to us and say support, not support. So he's not going to ask for the vote. If we had a screen like we would have done if this is a normal inside town meeting, which we don't, it actually show the vote on there, but he's not going to do that. He's going to say support or not support. So we'll say support to all of them as long as the amendment goes through like it should. And then Tim, you will do what you are wanting to do as far as getting up and saying you are advisory member, you were the dissenting vote, and this is your reason to dissent.
Kathy,
Okay.
Paul had his hand raised. Can I bring him back over?
Of course.
Kathy, on that last point, to the extent you made it seem like that was a change in process for this meeting, it's not. The question came up yesterday or last night, at what point, Tim would get to, if he wanted to, explain his dissenting vote on Article 10. And I indicated that, when we take recommendations from public bodies, like the selectmen, like the advisory committee, et cetera, those are body-wide recommendations. Any member of any board or committee is free to express their individual opinion or explain their position as a member of that board or committee. And Tim, I encourage you to do that if you want to tomorrow. But I think, Kathy, when you explain that and in talking about Tim's dissenting vote, it felt too much like you were suggesting they were connected, and they're not.
No, I didn't mean to, and I agree that the normal process is just turn to each, board selectman, advisory, support, not support. But
Right.
that screen that we started using a couple of years ago, when we actually showed the actual votes, did elicit several people standing up when they saw it was a split vote and asked why. And so I was trying to make the point is that won't, somebody could still ask what the vote was, right? I mean, we'd answer,
Of course.
but unless they ask it, we're not going to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a screen. We don't have any
I know.
AV materials. So
That's my point.
yeah.
So I agree. I agree. All right.
I'm sorry, how will the amendments be distributed properly?
I suppose that's a question for me, meaning how will people know what the amendments are? I mean,
Usually they like to have like a red line version so that they can actually see what's being changed. I think
what's funny is we're all old enough to remember when, and it wasn't that long ago, and we didn't have a screen. I mean, we just did them, verbally as best we could, right?
Yeah, but remember 10 is going to be handed out. 10, they've got it already written as far as the amendments go.
Right where I was going, Kathy.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe not just 10, I believe 3 is being worked on in advance. And I assume if people who intend to vote to move amendments, I assume people who intend to move amendments ought to and are going to do their best to get that information in front of folks as they walk in. Because we just won't have a screen. And if there isn't anything written down vis-a-vis a particular amendment, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way.
We've done for the last 2 town meetings.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a screen for a while, unfortunately. So
Tim, does that answer your question?
I know that on 10, the amendments, the intended amendments to 10 are going to be published ahead.
All right. Anything else, Paul, you want to tell us?
No, I just came over for that one point.
All right. Okay, so we're going to get the minutes out by the weekend, right, Claire? So now you do. I was going to say if we hadn't had a quorum, we wouldn't have done tonight. But yes, now we do. But it's a pretty short piece that you're going to have to do for tonight. So if you can get all 3 out, is there anybody that would really have trouble getting there to 6:30? Even 6:45, we still get it done. It usually takes a while to get everybody seated. So the meeting may not start at 7 sharp. I hope it does, but it may not. But if everybody can get there at 6:30, as soon as we get us all there, we will approve the 3 minutes so we can get that out of the way. So I will post a meeting so that we can officially approve those minutes. Normally, you don't have to post a meeting for town meeting, but I will just to make sure that we don't get in trouble for that. And then if anything else we need to talk about, we will. Okay. All right. I think we're going to be seated pretty far apart, so we won't be able to huddle like we normally do during the meeting. So, all right.
I have
Anybody?
a question, Kathy.
Go ahead, Tom.
So it's 6:30 on Monday. Are we meeting? Is this where at the gym at Trottier, like where you go to vote? Is that where all this takes place?
Yeah, and we'll just go grab a room real quick. Which is
Okay.
what we usually do. We'll grab a room in the school and sit down and talk before the meeting. And he wants us to come in. This is what Jim said last night. He wants us to park behind the gym and wants us to come in that door at the back. And I'm not quite sure where that door is. So there must be a door at the back to come in the gym. So not necessarily the door. I don't think he means the door that you go in when you vote. I think there's a different door, but he said it's going to be marked. So he wants everybody to park what he's calling at the back of the gym. right? So I guess, if you come in from Deerfoot, right? And then take that immediate right, don't go back, don't go out, don't go down into the parking lot. I guess there's enough room to park back there, but I don't know. So I can just repeat what he said without knowing exactly what he's talking about. So, okay. Any public comment before we adjourn? Looks like Paul may want to come back.
Sorry, it's a little cumbersome process to bring me over. I could just, I don't know if there's a way for me to just speak without coming over as on camera, but think of it as coming up to Trottier from Neary. And as soon as you hit the parking lot, go left. Don't go into the front parking lot. Go left, not behind the school, behind the gym, which is that parking, which is the area where there's like a basketball court painted on the pavement. And you're to the left of the main parking lot.
All right, that makes sense. So to the left
Okay.
of the cafeteria too.
Correct.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
I think it's this area over here, Kathy, right? And then it's
Andrew,
probably,
you were so quick.
so I'm assuming you park in these spots here next to
Yeah,
the basketball court and going. west.
Yes, that is what, yes, exactly.
okay. I thank you very much, both of you.
Okay.
All right, okay. All right, anything else from our public? See nothing. Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second,
roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Tom.
aye.
All right, see you guys next Monday at 6:30 at Trottier, and I will send the revised spreadsheet to you as soon as we log off here.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.